How are you doing, guys? It's Eric from LittleWasteland.com. I've been seeing a lot of videos lately about how, from other prepping channels and just, not necessarily big channels, but just all across the board, people being like, everybody's just doom and gloom. Prepper channels are always just talking about this. I'm going to take a break from this or whatever. I'm fed up with this. Seeing it from a lot of people. This isn't directed at any one particular channel. And honestly, it's a legitimate thing, that there are some channels that are coming out with just nonstop, doom and gloom type, and a lot of times fake news. But in my mind, if it's real news, you can't really be saying that it's just doom and gloom. And I think that there's a difference between, if you were to wake someone up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my God, what if someone were to break in right now? And you'd be like, look, all right, we got the door locks, we got the dog, we got the strike plate on our door so it can't be kicked in, I've got my guns right here, like, let's just go to sleep. There's a big difference between that and like looking out the window, seeing someone prowling around outside with a gun, and then waking up and being like, hey, there's someone outside, we need to make sure we're on DEFCON 1 or whatever. And the person being like, man, let's stop with this doom and gloom. You said that last night, well, there was someone outside there too. So there's a real difference between just constantly focusing on things that could happen and identifying and talking about things that are happening right now. And to some extent, it still applies that you just need to get ready and then, not necessarily just always think about the bad things that could happen. But when bad things are happening, it makes sense to talk about them and how that might affect what we're doing. And also, to some extent, people just need to, steel themselves to the fact that we're in a new world now in terms of the things that could happen. And if you can't listen to news about what's literally happening in the world and the implications of that without it crushing your psyche, then you've got some mental work to do, in my opinion. And that's not to say that you should always just seek out bad news. You should absolutely go live your life, but I think you should keep a handle on what's going on. And to some extent, going to preparedness channels, clicking on it, regardless of what their thumbnail is, and then complaining about the fact that they're talking about things that relate to preparedness just because they're negative is akin to going to a channel about diet or something and being like, oh, this channel only talks about what you can't eat. Or going to some cardiologist being like, this guy always talks about things that are wrong with the heart. Why don't you point out someone who has a great heart? And he's like, I'm a cardiologist. Or a dentist talking about cavities and stuff. Like, this is the content for these channels, is talking about things that could cause disasters. It could cause you to use your preps. It could cause stressful things to happen to your economy or your government or your infrastructure and all that. So I think it's kind of weird to go to those channels and be like, oh man, you're always talking about negative stuff, especially when, like I said, negative things are happening. A lot of these channels that that people are complaining about are not really blowing it out of proportion. The fact that they have a video that covers the news and it's seemingly negative every day is because of the crazy state of the world that we're in right now. So if you do find yourself being like super affected by that, then yeah, you should stay away from just constantly reading the barrage of news, especially if you're already at a point of preparedness that you're relatively ready, so to speak. But that's the problem. I think that most of these people are really not ready. They're not to a level of preparation that they feel even remotely comfortable, and that's why hearing about these things stresses them out. And the easiest way to stop feeling that feeling is not to get prepared, it's to stop listening to the truth, the na kind of thing. So I think if you're feeling that, super stressed out from what's going on, I think the first step is to really evaluate, why am I feeling that way? And most of the time it's going to be because you're not at what you consider to be an adequate level of preparedness. And that doesn't mean to panic and go out and get everything that you need right away, blow your wad financially, whatever, and just panic buy. It means to set up a plan for that. And then, like I said, keep your finger on the pulse, but don't just constantly barrage yourself with the negative news, especially if you're not already prepared. And once you are prepared, then all you need to do is just keep abreast of what's going on, see if anything changes, and then make a decision and act on it, not just sit there and stress about it. But in general, I do feel like there's a little bit of just people need to toughen up. Maybe I'm crazy. I've always been in mindset that I can think about that stuff and then just go about my normal day. If you came over to my house, no one, unless you had a very keen eye, would recognize that I was even a prepper. So I don't it's not like I let it consume my life, but the signs are there if you know what to look for. Most people probably just think I have a lot of stuff. Yeah, let me know what you guys think, because I can see both sides of it, especially when it comes to the channels that are really just doing it for monetization, just doing it for views. And I think that's the biggest step here, is to recognize those channels and excise them because they're not doing anything useful. They constantly come out with just poking to every little crazy conspiracy theory thing, talk about the worst possible implications of it, and then move on when it doesn't come to fruition, never mention it again, that kind of thing. So focus on the ones that are actually giving you real information. And then if you have too many of them, you don't need every channel that does that. If there's 10 channels that are just giving you daily news updates on the same story, same versions of the story, and it's all negative, you don't need to watch all those. I don't really do it every day, but if mine is one that you feel like you need to cut out because I'm talking about all negative things, so be it. I don't care. But don't just come on and complain about it. Like, you're subscribed to these channels, you know what I mean? Like, these are prepping channels. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you soon. Check out RuleTheWasteland.com.